She sat alone, no lawyer, no one to represent her. She didn't understand legal language, just clutched her husband's final letter, a soldier who had made the ultimate sacrifice. No one in the courtroom knew that from miles away, an old comrade had received his final message and was on his way. If you believe that promises made on the battlefield should be kept for a lifetime, subscribe. The story that follows will touch your heart even more deeply. Clara Jenkins was a 61-year-old widow of Sergeant Jackson Jenkins, a veteran who had served in Afghanistan and passed away a year earlier from lung cancer caused by chemical exposure during his service. After her husband's death, Clara lived alone in their old suburban home, surviving on a meager stipend that barely covered her basic needs. The walls held photographs of a younger Jackson in uniform, smiling with comrades whose names she had memorized from his stories. One day, an official-looking envelope arrived containing a courthouse summons. Required to appear in court on charges of financial fraud, improper receipt of benefits due to failure to update records after spouse's death. She stared at the document in shock. For months, she had been sending forms to update her status, but the local post office had misplaced them. Each time she inquired, she was told to just fill out another one, without any guidance on the correct procedure. With no money for legal representation, Clara gathered what documentation she had: her husband's handwritten final letter, old paper files, their wedding certificate yellowed with age, and made her way to court alone. Upon arrival, court clerks barely acknowledged her, calling her name like a case number rather than a person. Clara stood straighter, the military bearings she had absorbed from decades of marriage to a soldier evident in her posture, despite her fear. The prosecutor, a young man with an expensive suit and dismissive manner, approached the bench. "This is a straightforward case. The defendant deliberately maintained benefits for personal gain." Clara rose from her seat, her voice quiet but determined. "I tried to update the records. I sent in the forms, but never heard back." No one seemed to believe her. Years of navigating military bureaucracy with her husband had taught Clara patience. But standing alone felt different. The system that was supposed to support veterans and their families now labeled her a criminal. Behind her, the gallery grew restless. She heard whispers, even a few mocking comments. Another fraud case trying to defend herself. She clutched her husband's final letter, her fingers tracing his handwriting. Jackson had always been her advocate, her strength. In their 38 years together, he had never once let her face adversity alone. As the judge reviewed the case file, Clara thought to herself, if he were still alive, he would stand up for me. What she didn't know was that someone was about to stand in his place. The trial began with the prosecutor presenting his argument. The defendant received over $7,000 during the 9 months following her husband's death, while failing to provide valid verification of her marital status change. Clara stood shakily, presenting her husband's death certificate, wedding photos, and his letters. The judge responded dismissively, "These documents lack current legal validity. You need certified government-stamped copies." Clara tried to explain, "I have no one to help me. Everything I own is right here." The prosecutor smirked. "She's playing on emotions, Your Honor." The courtroom remained silent. Not a single person stood to offer assistance. Clara felt the weight of indifferent stares. No one could imagine that an elderly woman might innocently find herself caught in bureaucratic machinery too complex to navigate alone. The judge was about to announce a preliminary ruling when the courtroom doors opened. A man in a full-dress colonel's uniform entered. His bearing was impeccable, his gaze intense and focused. Without asking permission, he walked directly to the defendant's table and sat beside Clara. The gallery erupted in surprised murmurs. The colonel spoke, his voice clear and commanding. "I am Colonel Victor Hall, Sergeant Jenkins' former commanding officer. I'm here on his behalf, fulfilling his final request. If I can't be there for Clara, please protect her in my place." He presented his military credentials, Department of Defense verification, and a complete legal file bearing official stamps, documents that Clara had been unable to obtain despite months of trying. "Your Honor, Sergeant Jenkins served under my command for 16 years. He saved 3 of our men during an ambush in Kandahar. The forms Mrs. Jenkins attempted to file were lost through administrative error, not through any negligence or deception on her part. The entire courtroom fell silent as Colonel Hall placed a hand gently on Clara's shoulder. Furthermore, I have here the official military widow's benefit application, properly processed and approved. This case should never have reached your courtroom. The prosecutor began to object, but Colonel Hall continued. Sergeant Jenkins once told me that the true measure of a country isn't how it treats its soldiers during war, but how it treats them and their families afterward. From his briefcase, he produced additional documentation, proving Clara had attempted to file updates multiple times. Your Honor, this isn't just about Mrs. Jenkins. It's about keeping our promise to every service member, that we will care for those they leave behind. Some people make promises they cannot keep because they've made the ultimate sacrifice, but others will keep those promises until their final breath. If you believe that honor doesn't expire with time, type honor in the comments. Colonel Hall read aloud from Sergeant Jenkins' final handwritten letter. My dearest Clara, if anything happens, contact Victor. He will come. The letter continued. I've always told you the military is about discipline, but when we leave the battlefield, all that remains are the brothers who truly stand by you. The judge requested a brief recess to review the newly presented documents. During this time, the prosecutor and court staff exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure how to respond. Other veterans in the courtroom, some who had come for their own cases, stood at attention, a silent show of solidarity. When the judge returned, his tone had changed noticeably. After thorough examination, I confirm that all information provided by Colonel Hall is valid and legally binding. This case is dismissed in its entirety. The courtroom erupted in applause. Several people wiped away tears. Clara grasped Victor's hand, too emotional to speak. He simply nodded. He asked me to come, so I did. Local media reported, soldier keeps promise to fallen comrade between courtroom and heart. In the days that followed, Clara received hundreds of supportive messages from military families who had faced similar challenges. Her story had exposed a systemic problem affecting many veterans' widows who lacked the knowledge to navigate complex benefit systems. Colonel Hall established the Clara Foundation, providing legal assistance to spouses of deceased veterans dealing with post-service bureaucracy. The foundation paired military widows with volunteer attorneys who understood both legal matters and military culture. This should never have happened, Colonel Hall explained at the foundation's launch. Clara's experience exposed a gap in our support system for military families, one we're now working to close. The courthouse where Clara had faced charges renamed its main hallway the Jenkins Corridor, displaying photographs of Clara and Sergeant Jenkins with the inscription, Honor doesn't end where gunfire ceases. Government agencies implemented a new Jenkins protocol, simplifying paperwork for military widows and providing direct assistance for those with limited access to legal resources. The prosecutor who had pursued the case against Clara later requested assignment to the Veterans Affairs legal team, where he worked to reform the very system that had nearly criminalized her. Meeting Colonel Hall changed my perspective, he admitted in an interview. I saw firsthand how our legal system can intimidate those it should protect. Clara herself became an unlikely advocate. Her quiet dignity when speaking about her experience resonated with people far beyond the military community. She never expressed bitterness, only determination that others should not face similar challenges alone. Jackson always said that when you serve, your family serves too, she explained to a congressional committee reviewing veterans' benefits. But when service ends, especially through death, families shouldn't have to fight for what was promised. The committee's subsequent reforms were informally known as Clara's Law, ensuring that surviving spouses received comprehensive guidance on benefits and status changes, with simplified procedures that acknowledge the emotional burden of recent loss. Clara now volunteers at her local Veterans Association, helping other widows navigate paperwork, write applications, and understand their legal rights. When someone asks, "How did you get through that period?" she smiles gently. Because I was never truly alone. People think soldiers only fight on the battlefield, but they also keep their word, even where no shots are fired. A small statue stands at the entrance of the new Veterans Support Office. Those who sit beside us make justice stand up. Each year on the anniversary of her court case, Clara and Colonel Hall meet for coffee. They rarely discuss the past, instead focusing on the foundation's work, the lives they've touched, the system they've helped reform. Victor once asked if she ever resented having to go through such an ordeal. No, she said after careful consideration. It revealed something I might otherwise never have seen, that Jackson's brotherhood extended beyond his life. Justice doesn't always arrive on time, but when it does arrive, it brings back faith you thought was lost. If you believe that honor, promises, and loyalty remain unchangeable values, subscribe to TT Hero Stories. TT Hero Stories, because some heroes never stop serving.